associate of Srila Prabhupada, who are going to share their memories with us in a very unique way. Guru Das Prabhu was the first photographer of ISKCON. He and Shyam Sundar Prabhu, along with several other devotees, they established the second temple of ISKCON in the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco, which was incredible. In New York, in the Lower East Side, at 26 Second Avenue, the first center was started. And it had a very wonderful impact on New York City. But this center in San Francisco had an impact on the entire Western world, because these devotees that were there had such creative, dynamic vision and enthusiasm. Srila Prabhupada, so pleased with them, sent them to establish a temple in London, and then sent them to establish ISKCON in India. Shyam Sundar Prabhu and Guru Das Prabhu are literally legends in their own times. And I'm very happy to tell you that Guru Das Prabhu has brought his new book about Srila Prabhupada by his example, which will be available after the lecture today. It's a fantastic book. Shyam Sundar Prabhu today said after Prabhupada Lilamrita, he considers this most comprehensive and intimate revelation of Srila Prabhupada's character that has ever been brought forth to humanity. So please do consider purchasing this book. Today, original photographs of Srila Prabhupada back in the 1960s have been discovered by Guru Das Prabhu, and he's going to share them with us. Photographs that practically no one in the entire ISKCON or the world have ever seen. And Shyam Sundar Prabhu and Guru Das Prabhu, going through these photographs, have created a wonderful oral presentation of their remembrances along with them, which will literally transport our souls back in time to be right there in the inner circle of Srila Prabhupada's Leela, spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. I am so infinitely grateful to these great personalities who are also two of my dearest friends in life. Let us very enthusiastically welcome them to Sri Radha Gopinath Temple. At least 1,008 times louder, please. And we also have amongst us again His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj. Thank you very much.
We were talking this morning about San Francisco and how Srila Prabhupada came in our midst, 71 years of age. We were young, wild people. Who would believe that Prabhupada would tell...
SF, San Francisco.
Who would believe that Prabhupada would tell us that we would be worshiping a blue boy as God? And who would believe that he would be able to buy us suits and we would wear them? Prabhupada is our father, spoon-feeding us Krishna consciousness. You realize that when he came, there was no mridanga, no books except for Srimad Bhagavatam, no temples except for one, no elder god brothers or god sisters to show us the way. So Prabhupada spoon-fed us Krishna consciousness. Already he was very regulated, and he would go on the morning walks at the same time. There was a man in Vrindavan when we would go on the parikrama, and they would cross paths at 6:03 every morning. They were so regulated. I would check my watch by the two men to see, is it 6:03? Okay, I click. Click again. Okay, and every time I click, it'll change. Okay, this is Srila Prabhupada and the second accountant, Uddhava. Do you want to tell about being the first accountant?
No, you want to talk about Golden Gate Park?
This is Golden Gate Park, the famous Golden Gate Park. This is Jayananda Thakur, great saint, selfless, hard worker, never stopped, working while we're sleeping, going to the fruit market, and all the people loved him and gave fruits and vegetables. When he became a devotee, he was a taxi cab driver. He said he wasn't very intelligent, but he would ask me to name a street in San Francisco. I'd name a street, and he knew what houses or stores were on the street. He was so intelligent. So now we're walking near the famous Stowe Lake. We're walking up and down. We decided to take Prabhupada around the lake for scenic reasons. The next morning, Prabhupada just walked up and down. He didn't need all the scenery. He was transcendently fixed in Krishna consciousness. Nearby were some ducks near the lake. I've told this story 108 times, but you'll hear it again. Somebody said, "The Swami's coming, the Swami's coming, get out of the way." They were on the footpath, the ducks. So Prabhupada looked over at the ducks because they were waking up. Quack, quack, quack. He looked over. He said, "As you are thinking they are disturbing us, they are thinking we are disturbing them." He was even able to see into the hearts of all living entities.
The devotee on the... this is Gurudas. Devotee in the foreground is Gaurasundar Das, and Gargamuni is there. If you've been to Vrindavan, you must have seen Gargamuni. He doesn't look the same now.
Prabhupada called him Gargamuni. Now we're going on the street with Prabhupada. There's Mukunda Goswami, again wearing suits. Prabhupada got us to wear suits. Underneath the tunnel in Golden Gate Park. By the ocean. Now we're going by the ocean.
Golden Gate Park is one of the most beautiful civic parks in the world. It's a huge park, several miles long, and it ends at the ocean. So quite often we would walk down through the park to the ocean at the bottom, Pacific Ocean.
And we had a kirtan there, and Prabhupada said, "All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the Pacific Ocean." There's Chidananda Prabhu and Uddhava. Malati, Jamuna, Prabhupada. Shamashunda.
I am this body. This is early times.
This is behind the temple next to a big stadium, sports stadium. In Gorakhpur, India, I asked Prabhupada, "Did you play sports?" He said, "Yes, I was captain of the debating team."
This go back 1 second. Yeah. Can you go back?
Go back?
Oh, I guess.
How do you go
previous,
back?
hit previous. See the word previous there? Yeah. And now previous. Oh, well. That look on Prabhupada's face, this is a bit out of sequence. This photo was taken several months later when Prabhupada had become very ill. And he was going to India to hopefully get some treatment by an Ayurvedic doctor that he knew there. And this is his last moments in San Francisco. He's leaving all of us. We had grown so close together as a family. And you can see he's heartbroken to leave us. He won't even look up. He's so sad. He's on his way to India, and we don't know if we'll ever see each other again because he was so ill. This was a moment of the first major moment of separation from our spiritual master.
There's a few photos further on that are also in this series when Prabhupada was departing.
The good news is he came back healthy and vigorous again later.
Yes.
But at this time, none of us knew if we would ever see him again or if he would see us. He was very sad.
That's right. We didn't know if we'd ever see him again. This is the temple room we were explaining this morning. At first, Prabhupada sat on the altar. Kirtamashi was in a store. And I used to go every day and say, can we please have or purchase this Krishna? Krishna was pale blue in the window. Finally, one day they said, apparently Samashinda says they asked for $55, and I bargained them down to $35. And I went out in the street. We didn't have any money very much. And I said, my father's in jail. My son's in jail. I need money. And soon the $35 came. And then we brought Kirtamashi to the temple and fed him, and he became very blue, and Prabhupada said, just see, just see. But at first, Prabhupada didn't even tell us that there was a Vyasasan. Prabhupada sat on the altar. And then Lord Jagannath came. I don't know if Samashinda wants to talk about that again, briefly at least.
Just you can note how high he is off the floor. That was our idea of an altar in those days, that it should be very high on the ceiling.
This personality here is Tamal Krishna Goswami. Lilavati, Jamuna, a person who owned a music store. These are just some intimate shots of Prabhupada in the first temple room. We would go to many programs all over. So we were invited by the Democratic Party to chant. And we were invited by the Republican Party to chant. And so when the Republican Party invited us, we brought Ganesh, because the symbol of the Republican Party is the elephant. somehow or other, we were billed as Malati and the Dancing Gopis. We would go any place. We even went to one place with a devil worshiper and a lion. We would chant any place, anytime. But Prabhupada would go with us. This is in Marin County. Jai Prabhupada.
Now, who can resist that smile, that laugh, huh? This was the center of our lives, to see Prabhupada laugh like this. We would do anything to help that laugh come about.
People say to Samarshunda, they say, how did you do this all? And we just say, we wanted to see Prabhupada smile. This is at the Unitarian Church in San Francisco. Chandrabali, she is Native American extract.
Upendra.
Upendra. Then Prabhupada started dancing, and you'll notice that these photographs are somewhat fuzzy. It's because when Prabhupada started dancing, I started dancing when I was photographing, and I couldn't keep it focused.
The first Sankirtan party.
Okay, there's a good story about this.
In all of ISKCON history, that's the first day.
This is the first Harinam. We were in the temple room. It was Lord Chaitanya's appearance day. There was a manuscript, not a book, but just the rough type pages of the Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Prabhupada said, now go into the temple the whole day. Chant japa, read the manuscript, and then chant kirtan. But stay in the temple. Well, we were rebels. And Jayananda, myself, and Jivananda looked at each other and said, let us chant outside the temple and go to the Prabhupada's house. It was an apartment on Willard Street where I once lived. We chanted around the block with kartals and bongo drum. Prabhupada came to the window of the apartment and he saw us chanting and he went like this. And we thought, oh no, Swamiji has told us to go back to the temple. He told us to stay in the temple and we went outside and now he's saying, go away, go away. Well, Upendra runs out of the apartment and said, Swamiji wants to see you. He said, go away. He said, no, that's in India. That's how they say, come here, come here. Come here, come here. So Prabhupada then said, Lord Chaitanya has given you the intelligence to chant this in the streets, so now do this every day. And so this is the first day, Harinam Sankirtan.
Vishnu Jan playing the harmonium.
Vishnu Janan Maharaj playing harmonium, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Mukunda Goswami, Chidananda. Now we had Mridangas finally. And Murlidhar. We were a little bit nervous to do this, but we did it.
This is Fisherman's Wharf, right?
Yes.
Embarcadero.
Aquatic Park.
Embarcadero.
This is what it was like, a family with Prabhupada, Swamiji as our father. Very close, building something, not taking anything for granted, learning, striving, becoming selfless for Krishna, doing anything the Swami wanted.
And learning to live together as God brothers and sisters, because you must remember a few months before this, none of us knew each other at all. We were only gathered because of Srila Prabhupada, and we were learning how to work with each other and perform devotional service together. It was a wonderful time.
But the glue was the holy name, and Prabhupada, Swamiji, telling us how to do everything. It was a truly wonderful family, and if you've ever experienced starting a temple with some people, this process of starting it out with a few people is always a very wonderful process. Upendra Jamuna Devi.
Look at. Can you go back a second?
Can I go back?
Yeah. Notice the crowd, the background crowd. This is the beginning of the hippie era. You can see the kind of outlandish people that started to gather in San Francisco.
On the radio program, they said, "Why are you preaching to the hippies?" And Prabhupada said, "I'm preaching to the happies."
Prabhupada never told us to cut our hair.
He hardly told us anything at first. We even had dogs and cats coming to the temple and waiting for us outside. One day, Janaki's cat came at Prabhupada's feet. We didn't know what was going to happen. And Prabhupada just took his foot and petted the cat. Just like one time we were at Baladeva Indra Singh's house in the Punjab. He was a Maharaj, Kshatriya, and all over the walls were lions and tigers and wildebeests and animals on the wall, their heads. And the devotees were all uncomfortable and they didn't know what to do. So as usual, I looked at Prabhupada. How is he applying Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada was transcendental. Prabhupada could tell that we were uncomfortable because of all the animals' heads on the wall. So he said, Kshatriyas must hunt to practice for war. It is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the second Rathayatra festival.
This is Haight Street, just entering the Golden Gate Park. There's our chariot, the very first chariot in all of ISKCON.
And Prabhupada was looking out the window and did a drawing on how to make this cart. Now we're decorating the cart so beautifully. Who knows who this is? Can anybody recognize this exalted soul? No, not Sridhar. I know we all look alike, but Jaya Pataka Maharaj in his slim days.
He was the first devotee that shaved his head and put on the robes. And shortly after this, I think he went to India, right?
Yes.
Yeah. To escape the draft.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, he was from Canada, and usually people went to Canada to escape the He went to India. This is Dayananda. When Prabhupada was trying to get his immigration visa, Dayananda and Nandarani said, "We will adopt Prabhupada as our son." But Prabhupada said, "They will say what you are doing with such an elderly son."
This is the kind of crowds Haight-Ashbury, 1968.
And this policeman was known as Sergeant Sunshine because he loved our festivals. And there's a famous picture of him with his gun there and a flower in the gun. Sergeant Sunshine.
It's the more Haight Street, all the long-haired hippies of the times.
Yeah, when Bhakti Charu Swami was making the film Apoy Charan, the San Francisco section, how he had hippies depicted was more like very nice clothes and shoes, and I had to show him photos of what hippies looked like so he could be more authentic.
That's a cowboy look there, see, with the vest and the long hair.
Where?
In the right lower, next guy, that guy.
Oh, yeah. I know that guy. So we used to chant at the base of Hippie Hill. Still people chant and play drums there. Now, as you know, Lord Jagannath should not go out of the temple except on the Rathayatra day. But we didn't know any better. We were doing all these offenses without knowing it. We didn't know anything. So we decided, let's take Lord Jagannath outside the temple. So Prabhupada heard about it, and he actually ran. And he said, oh, Lord Jagannath should not go out of the temple. But as always, he forgave us. And since Lord Jagannath was already out of the temple that day, he sat down, we brought the sound system, and he chanted. This is Prabhupada's forgiveness for our offenses all the time. Okay, I always saw that Mukunda had a chance to see Prabhupada a lot, so I would do things, service, so I could be with Prabhupada. So much so that they even said, don't let Gurudas in anymore. He's always with Prabhupada. But every time they would go to the kitchen or something, that was when I decided to see Prabhupada. So they'd come back, oh, Gurudas is there again. So I set up a TV program for Prabhupada. Somebody else took the photos. This morning I told about, it was a call-in program and we had planned to call in, but we only have so much time. But during the sound check, when they were checking for sound, there was a buzz in the line, and they were looking in the lines for 1 hour, following the lines back to the soundboard. There was a buzz. Bzzz. So finally they went and followed it to the buzz. And they said, it's him, it's him. It was Prabhupada chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. It's him, it's him. Jivananda, he came and ate prasadam. He was from Texas and stayed, just for eating prasadam. Upendra. Govinda Dasi, Jamuna, in front of the TV. Okay, this is the continuation of the series where Shyamasundar was talking about we'd never know if we saw Prabhupada again. He was sick, but look how young he looks. And look how fond he is.
Too much light.
Well, that's my fault.
No, it's...
This is Jayahari. Suddenly we're in London, but that's all right.
That's London.
Okay, now Prabhupada was in the car getting ready to go to the airport, but suddenly he went out to look at the temple one more time and look at his face. He also thought, will I ever see these young people again? Will I ever see this temple again? And he went back to India, and that's one of my favorite pictures because of the mood of Prabhupada.
It needs some more contrasts.
Okay, this is our young family, Subal, Udaba, Malati, Karunamayi, Prabhupada, Hayagriva, Saradia, Govindadasi, Gaurasundar, Ramatanu, Jamuna, I'm not sure who. Now, we left out some of the important pictures of this, but Mukunda is with Janaki, and Janaki took Prabhupada's ticket because she was very familiar with Prabhupada, and she said, I'm not going to let you go, Swamiji. And Swamiji said, but they have my name in the airship, and they have my passport. And she was frustrated, and he was smiling. But she actually took his ticket, but then gave it back. And there he is smiling when she gave the ticket back.
Can you darken that a little? Can you darken that a little bit? It's too bright. That's volume.
Whoops.
Oh, well. I think that's the last picture in San Francisco, isn't it? So now click on London.
Okay, where are we? Let's just go to London. How do you do it? So as Samashinda was saying this morning, maybe you should say how important is London. I'm doing all the talking. Say how important London is.
In 1968, several of us began to get the inclination to move out from San Francisco and start a new center. There were 3 householder couples, Gurudas, myself, and Mukunda, and our wives. We asked Srila Prabhupada if we could go to London and open a center there, because we knew that he wanted a center in London almost more than any other place on the planet. His Guru Maharaj especially wanted a temple in London, so he was very happy that we were going there and helped us in many ways to achieve that. So now we'll look at some of the early London shots.
Okay, this is John Lennon, the Beatles' estate. Mukunda had written a letter to George Harrison, and the Beatles had heard Prabhupada's Mahamantra recording from the Happening label. So we thought it would be good if we were to meet the Beatles. And at first they didn't respond, but later on, due to perseverance, they met us. It's a somewhat famous story, but this is on John Lennon's estate. And this is our group, our first London temple, Malati and I think her name was Vishaka, right?
Yeah.
And Kulashikar, Ramatanu, Janaki, somebody.
These are friends of John Lennon over there, I think.
Yeah. Mukunda, Dhananjaya, Tirthapada, Radha Raman, Trivikram, Digvijaya, Purushottam, Uttama Shloka, somebody, Ishan, Vibhavati, Jamuna, looking at Prabhupada, like me, Dr. Ando, and this person came. This is Drupadi. We were going on Oxford Street chanting, and this one couple had a little stand with incense and things from India. And as soon as we went by chanting, they closed up their stand and followed us back to the temple. Well, in those days, we were getting interviewed a lot because of our recording with the Beatles. So a reporter came to her husband and said, "How long have you been a devotee?" And he said, 15 minutes. So I said, "I'll take over the interview, thank you."
Who's Dr. Endo? You mentioned that.
He was an ethnobotanist friend.
Of the devotees? Friend of the devotees?
Yeah.
I don't remember him.
Well, that's why I wrote a book.
Oh. You didn't mention Dr. Endo.
So these are more of our family with Prabhupada. Now these were publicity photos, good exposures. When we did the Radha Krishna Temple album, the early Hare Krishna mantra in Govindam, these were some publicity photos that someone took. This is Annapurna. Her father was wrote the horse column. What do you call it? Horse race column for the British Sun newspaper.
The form. the form, racing form.
Racing form. And he said, I don't like my daughter doing all this chanting and everything. Well, before she was actually a heroin addict, so I said, would you rather her shoot a heroin or chant Hare Krishna? And he said, I'd rather her chant Hare Krishna. So I got him to think a little bit. Okay, Samashunda can tell about this.
In order to attract people to Krishna consciousness in London in the early times, this probably before we even met George, I think.
Yeah.
We found someone who was willing to book us as a rock group at various concert halls, and there was one big concert hall called the Roundhouse, which was just a giant round indoor stadium with flat floor, a cement floor. And he booked us in there as the Radha Krishna temple. And thousands of people came. They wanted to see who these strange people were. So we started out the concert performance with a fire in the center of the floor, a yagna. And when we finished the yagna, we put all the wood, the remaining wood, on the fire, and it got very big. And we started the chanting, and everyone was dancing and standing and chanting and dancing. And as the chanting got wilder, they started pressing us closer and closer to the fire, to practically when our dhotis were in the fire. We were in great danger of being burned alive. And just then the fire department came, and they closed down the whole thing and came racing in and put the fire out. But that was the end of the concert.
And I couldn't understand because the previous group were breaking guitars and shooting off fireworks. Why should they object to our fire yagya?
In these days, this was 68, the hippie scene had shifted to London. You can see all of the British hippies around. Even American hippies started coming to London. It was sort of the center of the universe in those days.
It's ironic because when we started the Bhaktivedanta Manor, getting ready for the inauguration, the woman who sold us the Bhaktivedanta Manor took the doorknobs off and everything inside, just sold us the building. And so there was a lot of sawdust and fine material in the air. So when somebody struck a match, a fire started. So the fire brigade came and put the fire out. And so they put the fire out, and now they were going around the building, but it was time for the Abhishek. And so we started another fire, and they look inside, and they said, we just put the fire out, and now they're starting a fire. These Krishna people are crazy. Now, these are nice. These are photographs of Prabhupada. I'm just going to go through them somewhat slowly so we can drink in the continence of our spiritual master.
This is at John Lennon's house.
Yes. This is a Vyasa-san that was already there. Prabhupada performed, the same people who put their stand up and came and followed us, the devotee that was 15 minutes, they had a initiation and marriage ceremony the same night, 2 in 1. So they were given the name Devadatta and Draupadi, but they had a little child. So someone said, and Prabhupada was Prabhupada then, they said, Prabhupada, what is the little child's name? So Prabhupada looked and said, usually the child comes out after the wedding, not before. Usually the child comes out after the wedding, not before. He joked, and then he said, Dhruva Maharaj. Just see how he smiled on us. Always new ideas, fanning the flame of our devotion. If we had some idea, Prabhupada would make it even better with some idea. Nothing was too out, well, any good idea he would encourage. Dhananjaya Prabhu, Jamuna. Vagabond from Sweden. Oh, that's nice. This is these rooms we lived in. John and Yoko visited, and there's the book "Chant and Be Happy." They happened in these rooms, and Yoko Ono said to John Lennon, "Could you live so simply like the Swami? I can." We live somewhat simply together. There's the morning walk. I'll tell the worm story again. We were walking on a morning like this, more people, and I saw a worm going towards Prabhupada's feet. And I thought I should say something so the worm won't get stepped on. But then I thought maybe the worm would get liberated, like falling under the wheels of the Jagannath cart. So then Prabhupada's feet and the worm met. And then the worm went on and Prabhupada's feet went on. And I didn't see any footprint of Prabhupada in the grass.